Alright guys, this is the next roster in the LCS that has taken a massive turn, and it is Lions Gaming. Probably, or honestly, a team and an organization that many people really accounted to be making such drastic and major moves, but they did. And those roster changes are what we're going to get into right away. So, Zamudo is kept on the roster, which is awesome. And we'll get into him when we get to part 3. But Zamudo is staying. He was loaned to Isris to help them promote, or was it promote or to keep their spot? I think it was to keep their spot. So he was on loan, and now he's back. Adi, kind of the GOAT in a way, is being replaced by another GOAT, Inspired. Yes, Inspired, of all people, and pretty much the jungler in the West that most Eastern junglers actually would say is good. And that's because his style is most akin to LCK junglers who are essentially some of the best in the world. Then we have Saint, who is returning as well. Great. It's probably a huge reason why Inspired chose this team, because he really likes a mid laner who actually creates pressure on his own and drives the game. Then we have Henna is being replaced with the Berserker, which is, that was just, I'm trying to think if that was a bigger surprise towards Inspired joining this team, and it's close. Inspired is probably still a bigger surprise that he decided to go on Lions Gaming, but Berserker joining, he was on Cloud9, and then he was on, was it DRX? I think it was DRX, I'm not sure. And now he's back in LCS. Then we have Lions, who is having Isles, and Berserker Isles played together, I believe, on C9 briefly. And those are just the major changes they did. Now, I need to get into the return impressions real quick, and then the new edition impressions will be even more interesting. And then, yeah, the cons and, everything. So, Zamudo is a returning player, but he technically didn't play with the team. I'm pretty sure he's maybe scrimmed with the team, but he basically didn't play with the team because of visa issues. And they ended up having him play with, like I said, Isris. So he got some experience elsewhere, but it was not within the organization. I could say he's probably a new addition in a way, but I'm just going to keep him in the return impressions, just because it's a lot easier. And for me, Zamudo, at least when I worked with him and I got to listen and watch him on Maryville, when he's in the zone, he has a lot of good call-outs based on like what's good for his game, what can be good for, the opposite side of the map, like the mid laner on playing his side. He's mechanically strong. He can play his lanes. Essentially what it really boils down to is that as long as he's in the right mindset, he takes the time to practice out his 1v1s, and he shows up, he's a good addition to the team and to really any team. It's unfortunate he didn't get to play last year, or I guess technically this year, because he has a lot to offer. It's just he needs to get over these inconsistency bumps and certain mentality, fallouts that can happen at times. And if he does that, yeah, he's going to be a fun player to watch. We have Saint, who's returning as well. And this guy, of course, had an explosive year. He made a ton of big plays and was very impressionable in all the games he always plays. And while he can do some magnificent things, at the same time, he can get lost. His macro can fall apart. He can get tilted. And he has some consistency issues. And that is something he had back in LCK CL. So, that's not actually a huge surprise. And so his bad habits still stayed in his rookie year, which, is probably not the most ideal, that you didn't really see a huge progression in terms of curving that out. So hopefully now that Inspired's joining the team, that'll be kind of the driving force to kind of clean up some of those things, just like how JoJo had Inspired to help clean up some of those things. Now, the new additions, Inspired. Yes, he is incredible, and he's incredible for a couple of reasons. And the most major one that most people will always bring up is that Inspired can handle 50 to 70% of the team's calling without dropping his own performance. That's insane. I think a player who can really, do so much of the like driving the game in terms of making the right calls, talking like about like what's the next plan for your teammates so they can focus on their own individual selves while not playing bad himself and mechanically executing, that's really hard to find. And he can do it. So that's pretty much why he's just the best. He's also very good at just keeping his pathing clean, moving when he needs to move. He's down to do cheeses. And generally, he's just playing at a level where if he had better laners, better players, like he would literally look so much better. Like even better than he looks now. But that's just not the case. So he's like, I don't know what his actual game plan is in terms of just what he sees. Like, I don't know if this was just like a really big bag he was offered, and so like he took it because, I know like they talked about how he was looking to join G2, even, and G2 declined, TL declined, and so he lost some opportunities for whatever reason. Because certainly, I'm sure most people would view that Inspired plus Caps would be just a ridiculous combo to have because both are very strategic in mind while still playing well, but he's on this team. Next up, Berserker. So this guy, we all remember his time on Cloud9. It was the first 2 years, right? I can't remember if he was on Cloud9 for 2 years or 3 years, but at least the very first year, he was an absolute unit, like just by far the best player and carry in the league. Then he had just a very poor and flat performance and just never felt the same. And he goes to LCK and he goes to the bottom, straight to the bottom, terrible team. He's not really making a ton of impressions there either. And so he's kind of coming off, 2 bad years and landing back in LCS. And he has a lot to prove. And I don't know if he's really gonna make it that way. Is he better than Henna? Probably. Am I like super hyped to see him? Not really. I don't know. He really does have to just show us that like he still has it. And the guy that he has to do it with is Isles. And no offense, but the impression from Isles when playing with Dig is that he sucks. Like he's just bad. Like he has made mistakes in his map movement, his macro sense, which is, if that's happening, hopefully he's mechanically executing the fights well and is laning well. Nope, he is not. He's not playing his lane like that well. He's not playing fights really that well. And so you kind of just have a guy there because you need him to cover for the slot. And again, it makes me beg the question of like, why not Ayla? Like, why would you not just get Ayla in this position versus this guy? Because in the end of the day, he would just be better. He really would just be flat out just be better than Isles. But they chose him for whatever the case is. And so, before I go into the cons, because I can already feel myself trailing into that, for the pros, their top side is pretty awesome. Inspired has been essentially the NA rookie grower at this point. He had Jojo Danny, then he had Busio and Masu, and of course Busio already had like a year under him, but like that was kind of like his real first drive through with a team that actually can do stuff. And so we're going on to this team, and he has Saint and Zamudo. And again, yeah, Saint had a year, but it wasn't the most successful year. And now, like, these are two very, very capable, players. Like, obviously, everyone knows the hype around Saint. I have hype around Zamudo. I just think he needs more push and perhaps Inspired helping with some of the macro sense will allow Zamudo to focus on his individual capabilities. And so that's something they're going to lean on for sure. Going into like this split this year, they'll lean on their mid, jungle mid, and they'll lean on playing in the top as well. And if they do that, I think they can find success. You know, if Berserker so happens to be the guy, or at least be somewhat the guy, that'll be really beneficial. You know, he can add a lot towards team fighting. Like, they don't have to dominate bot lane. They just have to go even or maybe slightly behind and then perform in the fights, and that's good enough as well. You know, the roster can be it looks a little odd. I won't lie. This mix of players is a little odd, but there's enough talent that if they can see it through, like I said, they could have a pretty successful year. The cons is, we're picking up Berserker on a 2-year downward trend and then a bad support. And by the way, this is going from LYON'S to ISLES, and LYON'S was terrible. And ISLES is not that much better, so we're basically going from a bad support to another bad support. So not a whole lot of benefit there. And so that kind of diminishes what Berserker can really do. And that's why I was bringing up, like, oh, they could look for team fights and add into team fights. Because honestly, I don't see this duo dominating bot lane. Like, I just don't really see that happening. And at times, they couldn't really, like, Berserker wasn't even able to do that when he was, again, those last 2 years. I wasn't really that kind of guy either. So that's a weakness. And that's definitely a big con. Another con for this team is that, yes, there can be some mental, players with Saint and Zamudo, as just individuals that if those do occur, that can be a problem. That can ruin your consistency and your ability to continue to grow and perform. And Inspired is Mr. Consistent. He is. He will always consistently give you what you want. And playing again with players who might not be, and if they don't ever get to that point, the roster might just be bad. It might actually just turn out really bad. And like I said, I do feel like the mix of players is it's a little odd. Like, personally, I really would not have gone with Berserker. I really would not have gone with ISLES. I mean, like, if this team had FBI Ayla, I think this team would have been actually so interesting. Like, FBI Ayla and this roster would be easily top 3 and competing for the chip 100%. In their current set, it's like, I know Inspired has carried teams to championships. He has. It's not the same as the other 2 rosters that he has done it on, which was EG, that again also had Vulcan and Impact, who were like very good vets, and then also had, what was it, Whippo, a very good vet, and then guys who can already lane well. They have a lane that's not going to possibly lane well. They have 2 lanes that could, but one who might not. And I don't know if ISLES Inspired is really going to be that scary of a combo as a jungle support, which again, not great long term. That's definitely a big downgrade from him playing with Busio. So the expectations for the roster, it's top 5. Like, my expectations are top 5. I actually see them maybe not winning a chip. I think the only way they do is if their jungle support is honestly really that insane. Like, if it's so good that they can just topple over every single team through those 2, then they have a chance. But for the first split, I feel like might just be top 5. Long term down the road, can they compete for a world spot? I feel like they would not be competing for first or second. But I do feel like they could be competing for that 3rd slot. It is possible, based on the other teams we see and everything, that they could possibly be competing for that, depending how Zamudo and Saint turn out. In terms, like I said, in terms of consistency and what they can perform, and then of course, if Berserker can at least add to where he can add. But I just don't really feel like this team's going to be such an overwhelming force that they're just going to be pushing for the chip, right? I guess the only way that happens is if they're just mechanically just way stronger than the other teams as well. But I don't know. I'm not feeling that quite yet. Not quite yet. So yeah, that's kind of my overall opinions on Lions. It's a very interesting roster, but it's just, it feels like there are some awkward choices added into it that is fighting against its ability to just go like further. And this could literally be a wasted year for Inspired, possibly, which would suck for him, you know, especially knowing how good he is. And he's just yeah, I guess he's getting paid well, I guess, but it's kind of a waste of time instead of showing something. But it is what it is. Thanks for watching, guys.